It was a fail. Let's get right into it. Please like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. Angel Reese's return, Friday, February 20th, 2026. Hive versus Rose, 40,000 viewers in the advertising demographic, 18 to 49, and 130.
Angel Reese's highly anticipated return to Unrivaled was supposed to be a game changer. The league, co-founded by Nafisa Collier, had been bleeding viewers, and they needed a star to move the needle. They got Angel Reese back on the court Friday, February 20th, Rose versus Hive, primetime slot on TNT, and the numbers came in, 130,000 total viewers. In the key advertising demographic of 18 to 49-year-olds, just 40,000 people tuned in. To put that in perspective, that's not just disappointing. That's catastrophic for what was supposed to be their biggest draw of the season.
This is no bueno. Let's take a look at another one of the Rose's numbers before Angel Reese showed up. Rose versus Lunar Owls, the same 18 to 49 demographic, the same 40,000 viewers. So we didn't even improve on the advertising side of things. And the worst part of all of this is that a random Friday game, February 6th.
Here's what makes those numbers even worse. 2 weeks earlier, on February 6th, a random Friday night matchup between the Hive and the Breeze pulled 150,000 viewers. No star return, no promotional buildup, no Nafisa Collier spending money to bring back a marquee name. Just a regular season game with zero fanfare, and it outdrew Angel Reese's comeback by 20,000 viewers. The advertising demographic stayed exactly the same at 40,000, which means Reese's presence didn't move the needle at all, with the audience that actually matters to sponsors. Unrivaled invested heavily in getting her back, and the return on investment was negative.
The Philadelphia game, not the Philadelphia game, a random Hive versus Breeze, 40,000 viewers in the 18 to 49, but 150,000 viewers total. Angel Reese's return game couldn't even do better than a random Friday night game between the Hive and the Breeze. Oh, no.
Now, if you want to understand why Caitlin Clark is in a completely different stratosphere, consider this thought experiment. If Clark had joined Unrivaled instead of taking the offseason to rest, what would her debut have pulled? Conservative estimate, 700,000 viewers minimum. And that's being cautious. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't just about her games either. Every other matchup in the league would have seen a boost just from the residual attention. Games that normally pull 130,000 would suddenly be hitting 200,000 or more because casual fans would be checking in on the league. That's what a true needle mover looks like. A rising tide lifts all boats, and Clark is that tide. Angel Reese's return proved she's not.
That's what they say. She was hooping. Let's take a look.
Swings it to Gray. Young matched up. Reese's fed. Missed it. Grabs her own miss. Back to work against Thomas.
Oh. Damn, she said, yeah, I ain't getting it up on over Alyssa Thomas. Let me just kick it out. And now this is the funny part of all that. After Angel Reese misses 2 point-blank layups, here comes Copper hitting a tough layup. We got a whoop.
But the ratings disaster was only half the story. What happened on the court was somehow even more damaging to Reese's brand. This sequence right here became instant meme material. 2 point-blank layups, both missed. Alyssa Thomas doesn't even bother putting her hands up on defense because she knows what's coming. And sure enough, Reese grabs her own rebound, which is becoming her signature move for all the wrong reasons. Another miss, another offensive rebound off her own shot, then Kahleah Copper comes down the court and finishes a contested layup that looks 10 times harder than anything Reese attempted. The contrast is brutal.
Doesn't even put up her hands. Brick. Another board. Well, after the double dribble, Alyssa Thomas underlays her again. She says, yeah, I'm done with this. And here comes Copper. Tough layup. Bang. Fee, come on. Fee. Stewie. I know I give y'all, push your buttons from time to time, but you can't.
This is the fundamental problem with Angel Reese's game that no amount of hype can overcome. She's been in professional basketball for over a year now, and the basic finishing skills around the rim haven't improved. At some point, you have to ask who's training her and why these glaring weaknesses aren't being addressed. LSU won a championship with her playing this way because they had enough talent around her to compensate. But in a 3-on-3 league where every possession matters and there's nowhere to hide, these limitations get exposed over and over again. Defenders have figured out they can just let her shoot and live with the results.
Would do massive. Not only her games, but the league in general would improve in ratings. Angel Reese's comeback, her game doesn't do good, and the league still stays pedestrian as far as the ratings are concerned. You think HBO had some new signups because... Stop. Shout out to Joey Gladstone. Cut it out. No. HBO Max didn't have any new signups because of the return.
The announcers couldn't even hide their awareness of what was happening. Listen to how they described this possession. Missed it. Grabs her own miss. That's not praise. That's barely concealed criticism, wrapped in play-by-play obligation. When your signature stat is offensive rebounds and the broadcast team is pointing out that most of them come from your own missed shots, that's not the kind of attention any player wants. Reese finished that game with impressive rebound numbers on paper, but anyone who watched knows the context. She's padding stats by cleaning up her own mess, and it's become so predictable that it's a punchline.
This trash up. Angel, this has to stop now. Your game should be up to par by now. That's true. Who's training? Who's training her, man? Like, who's just not correcting some basic fundamental issues? Who? Shout out to the New Day. Then Copper flies in, heavily defended, and sinks the shot. This is how she gets them rebounds.
Nafisa Collier made a significant investment to bring Reese back to unrivaled, and you have to wonder what she's thinking now. The whole strategy was built on the assumption that Reese has a massive fan base that would follow her to whatever league she played in, that she's a draw comparable to other WNBA stars, that her presence would justify the cost and boost the entire league's profile. None of that materialized. The ratings stayed flat. The social media buzz was mostly negative, and the on-court product didn't deliver anything that would make casual viewers want to come back for more.
The thing is that AT, old broken ass auntie, there is so little skill there that's, oh, this is so mean. Oh, Billy Bean, that's rude, Billy Bean. That's rude. At least she padded her rebound numbers. Another offensive rebound for Reese. Yeah, the announcer said she rebounds her own miss. That was actually pretty funny. Let's take a listen to this announcer one time.
After that Friday night disaster, Reese played again on Sunday, February 22nd. No NFL competition this time. Perfect opportunity to see if the first game was just a fluke, if maybe the audience needed time to realize she was back. The ratings for that second game, they never got released. TV ratings guy, who posts detailed viewership data for virtually every televised sporting event, decided to keep those numbers private. When a ratings reporter chooses not to publish data, you can safely assume it's because the numbers are even worse than the previous disaster. If Sunday's game had shown any improvement, those figures would have been shouted from the rooftops. Silence tells you everything.
Matched up, Reese is fed. Missed it. Grabs her own miss.
Missed it, grabs her own miss. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Unrivaled's disastrous. Unrivaled, it's a tough watch. I watched that Friday. I was one of those 130,000 suckers who tuned in. And I haven't watched a second since, to be fair. I watched and it didn't hook me. It didn't make me want to stay around. It made me want to do something else with my time. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. See you next time, and as always,
let's talk about what this means for the broader narrative around Angel Reese. For months, there's been this persistent argument from her supporters that she's just as important to the WNBA's growth as Caitlin Clark, that the rivalry between them is what drives interest, that she has her own massive fan base that's independent of Clark's popularity. Unrivaled was the perfect test of that theory. This was Reese's chance to prove she could carry a product on her own name value, separate from any connection to Clark or the Chicago Sky or March Madness nostalgia. The results were unambiguous. She can't. The audience isn't there. The draw isn't real.
You know what? We're just going to keep these numbers to ourselves. TV ratings guy said, you know what? We're just going to keep these metrics to ourselves. We're not even going to put this out. We're going to keep this one to ourselves. In case you guys missed any of it, well, Angel Reese was who?
HBO Max didn't see a surge in new subscriptions because of Reese's return. TNT didn't get the advertising windfall they were hoping for with that 1849 demographic. Unrivaled didn't get the legitimacy boost that comes with proving you can attract mainstream attention. Every stakeholder in this situation lost, and the person who lost the most might be Reese herself, because now there's concrete evidence that the emperor has no clothes. When you strip away the manufactured controversy and the social media engagement that comes from people arguing about her, what's left is a player who can't finish layups and can't move the ratings needle. That's a harsh reality, but it's reality nonetheless.
Monday, I believe, or it could have been a Sunday, the 22nd, played again. And I was looking at February 22nd's ratings. Oh, well, what did they do? What did the second game do? Sunday, right? Sunday, no NFL. What did that game do? Well, would you believe me if they said, you know what? We're just going to keep these numbers to ourselves. TV ratings guy said, you know what?
Here's what makes this situation particularly interesting from a business perspective. Unrivaled is trying to establish itself as a legitimate alternative to overseas leagues during the WNBA offseason. They need star power to attract sponsors, negotiate better TV deals, and convince more top-tier players to join instead of going to Europe or Turkey or Australia. Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart founded this league with the explicit goal of keeping American talent stateside and giving players a high-quality competitive option. To do that, they need ratings that justify the investment. They need proof that American audiences will watch women's 3-on-3 basketball if the stars are big enough. Angel Reese was supposed to be that proof. She's got name recognition from LSU's championship run. She's got social media followers in the millions. She's got the Chicago Sky connection and the Rookie of the Year race narrative. On paper, she checks every box as someone who should be able to deliver an audience. But the fundamental assumption was wrong. Her social media following doesn't translate to television viewership. Her name recognition doesn't translate to people actually tuning in. And without that translation, she's not valuable to a league that needs to prove its commercial viability.
It's just Caitlin Clark effect. It is what it is. It's the truth. Caitlin Clark's presence makes everything else grow. A rising tide lifts all boats, and she is that tide. So when I tell you Angel Reese's return was a fail,
compare this to what Caitlin Clark accomplished during her rookie WNBA season. The Indiana Fever's games were consistently pulling over 3 million viewers for marquee matchups. Regular season games that would have drawn 400,000 viewers in previous years were suddenly hitting 1.2 million because Clark was playing. Road games saw attendance records shattered in city after city. The league's overall viewership was up 170% year over year, and everyone from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert to opposing coaches acknowledged that Clark was the primary driver. That's what real star power looks like. That's what it means to actually move the needle. The gap between Clark's impact and Reese's impact isn't close. It's not even in the same universe, and Unrivaled's ratings disaster just made that gap impossible to ignore. So what happens now? Unrivaled is stuck in a difficult position. They've already paid Angel Reese to come back. They've already promoted her return as a major storyline. They can't exactly cut her or admit publicly that the investment was a mistake. But they also can't keep pretending that she's delivering value when the numbers say otherwise. The league has to figure out how to salvage this situation and find actual draws who can bring in viewers. Otherwise, they're going to struggle to survive past this inaugural season. For Angel Reese personally, this is a wake-up call that should prompt some serious self-reflection. The on-court issues are fixable if she's willing to put in the work with a skilled development coach. The finishing around the rim can improve with repetition and proper technique training. The decision-making can get better with film study and coaching, but none of that matters if she's surrounded by people who keep telling her she's already a superstar when the evidence suggests she's not. The gap between perception and reality has never been wider, and closing that gap requires acknowledging it exists in the first place. The ratings don't lie. 130,000 viewers for your big return isn't a success by any measure. It's not even mediocre, it's a failure. And when a random regular season game 2 weeks earlier outdrew your comeback, that's a clear signal that your name alone isn't enough to make people care. Unrivaled bet on Angel Reese being a difference maker, and they lost that bet badly. The question is whether anyone involved is willing to admit it, or if we're going to keep pretending that everything's fine while the viewership numbers tell a completely different story. This matters beyond just Unrivaled too. When the WNBA negotiates its next TV deal, when teams are making decisions about max contracts, when brands are choosing which players to build marketing campaigns around, these kinds of data points matter. Angel Reese's inability to deliver an audience in a controlled environment like Unrivaled is going to follow her. It's going to affect her earning potential. It's going to change how executives view her marketability. You can't fake ratings, you can't manufacture viewers that don't exist, and you can't convince sponsors to pay premium dollars for a player who can't deliver eyeballs. The Caitlin Clark comparison is unavoidable here because it provides such a stark contrast. Clark turned down Unrivaled to rest and focus on her WNBA preparation. She didn't need the money or the exposure. Her brand is already established. Her value is already proven. She can afford to be selective about where she invests her time and energy because everyone knows what she brings to the table. Angel Reese, on the other hand, needed Unrivaled more than Unrivaled needed her. She needed a platform to stay relevant during the offseason. She needed an opportunity to prove she could be a draw. And when that opportunity came, she couldn't capitalize on it. That's the real story here. Not just that the ratings were bad, but what those bad ratings reveal about where Angel Reese actually stands in the hierarchy of women's basketball. She's not in the top tier of stars who can carry a product on their name alone. She's not someone who can reliably deliver an audience without being attached to a bigger story or a more famous player. She's a complementary piece who benefits from being part of larger narratives, but struggles to create compelling narratives on her own. And for someone who's been positioned as one of the faces of the WNBA's growth, that's a significant problem. The path forward for Reese requires humility and honest assessment. She needs to acknowledge the gaps in her game and work obsessively to close them. She needs to focus less on social media presence and more on becoming a genuinely elite player. She needs to understand that manufactured controversy and engagement farming aren't sustainable strategies for building a lasting career. The players who endure in professional sports are the ones who let their performance speak for itself. Right now, Angel Reese's performance is speaking loud and clear, and what it's saying isn't flattering. Unrivaled will continue without much fanfare. The league will finish its season with modest viewership and hope that year 2 brings better results. Maybe they'll learn from this experience and be more strategic about which players they invest in. Maybe they'll realize that social media followers and name recognition aren't reliable predictors of television ratings. Or maybe they'll keep chasing the same strategy and wondering why it's not working. As for Angel Reese, she's got a long off-season ahead of her before the WNBA returns. She can use that time to get better, to address the fundamental flaws in her game, to become the player her supporters believe she already is. Or she can keep doing what she's been doing and hope that somehow the results will be different next time. But if there's one lesson from this Unrivaled disaster, it's that hope isn't a strategy. Hype isn't a substitute for substance. And eventually, the numbers catch up with the narrative. So here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Do you think Angel Reese can actually develop into a legitimate star, or is this as good as she's going to get? Because based on what we just saw from Unrivaled, the clock is ticking. The league is growing. The competition is getting fiercer, and players who can't evolve get left behind. Let me know what you think. And if you found this analysis valuable, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're going to keep breaking down the stories that actually matter in women's basketball, not just the ones that generate clicks.